So love-affirming communication comes quite simply from a state of loving the people around you, being concerned for how they're feeling and what needs they have that they feel are not being met. Well, of course, love is greater than that. It's also purposed on those around you having what they don't even envisage of life abundance and life eternal. So it's because of this predisposition in you, you react beautifully to a verbal attack from anyone else, regardless of whether they've done it knowingly or unknowingly or because of an addiction to such negative approach. Suddenly you realize they've said something and you don't even hear the criticism or the accusation or the judgment from them at all, whether there is or isn't one. You're just thinking, he's communicating to me. What need is troubling him? What need is not being met? What feeling is steering him to speak at present? Can I detect it from what he's saying? So now, of course, we fall back on Marshall Rosenberg's analysis. We say to ourselves, well, we have already in knowing that we're purposed on his feelings and needs, but the person we're talking to, or rather who's talking to us. And we say to ourselves now, how can I encourage him to let me know what his feelings and needs are? Shall listen very carefully to what he's saying, and I shall speak back to him what he seems to be saying or implying about his feelings and his needs. It's not occurred to me to respond to what he's thinking of me, or his judgment of me, or how he's assessing me. It's not crossed my mind, you see, because I'm only concerned about his welfare. I don't have to protect myself from words. I mean, he can say something, it's neither here nor there if I don't hear it or accept it, or if he doesn't say it even, but still thinking it. All I know is I'm presented with him speaking. And whenever the person speaks, someone speaks around you, because they want to convey something. If they want to convey something, it's because they have a purpose. What are they feeling that's driving this purpose? What need is not being met? Or is being met and they just wish to celebrate that things are lovely and things are good? How nice. So we're alive, we're listening and attentive automatically to whatever anyone around us is saying. And we check it out. Can we do anything to enrich their life? We, in some sense, have a preconception as to what their true needs are and what their feelings ideally should be, and not of criticism, not of negativity, not of judgment, not of depression, but feelings of fullness of life, life abundant, life eternal. We have a presupposition in our disposition, which is that this is what they need if they haven't got it. We may know they haven't got it. We may know they have, and just have to remind them of it. In which case our job's very simple. That's easy going. But of course, if they're not there, and they're just, if you like, secular or up the creek spiritually, so to speak, you know, depression and trouble and so forth, then the very fact they're talking means, things are particular at the minute. What is the particular that's leading them to talk? And we check them out. What are their feelings? What are their needs that they perceive as not being met, or are wonderfully being met, for instance? Of course, they might be raving on about how happy they are that, you know, they've just won the pools or something, and you're thinking, well, that's not necessarily going to be. I say won the pools. I should say lotto, shouldn't I? It shows you how old-fashioned I am. That was football pools back in England. Yeah, I mean, and one just thinks to oneself, well, it's not as good as knowing God, for goodness sake. I mean, yeah, I mean, very nice, and it's a blessing from God, ideally, but it's not likely to be quite the blessing if you don't know God. And in fact, it could be road to divorce and everything else, because now you've got the world at your feet with so much cash sort of argument, you know. So those that know the love of a loving God don't have some great need to master NVC. It flows naturally from a loving disposition to the people around you. And of course, as you discover what their needs and feelings are, they may say what they think is the solution. You know, I need someone to love. You know, I'm lonely. I need a perfect partner. You know, and just think, oh, good luck to that, mate. I mean, what you really need, you know what they really need, which is the love of God, to be aware of it. That's what will truly transform their life into abundant life. So you might not entirely run with what they think is the solution to their problem. And equally, I might point out those that are bowling along quite happy. You might very much feel that they're heading for disaster because they are assuming the world can bring them the happiness they want through material things and prestige and fame and honour and all that sort of rubbish. And you're pretty clear that that's going to be a problem to them. And you will be wanting to rescue them, but of course, if they don't have ears to hear, not much you can do until God passes them through a life experience that gives them ears to hear. You can only do so much, which is very little compared to what God's putting into things in loving and caring for his creation. But it's not nothing, and it's most important from your development point of view. You're learning how to be the loveliness of God, and that's simply wonderful, isn't it? Our children are learning how to be grown up. They're modelling themselves on mum and dad. How adorable. Thank you, Dad. I mean, thank you, Heavenly Dad, of course. Well, I mean, thank you, Mum and Dad, too. Of course. And Auntie and Grandma and Granddad and uncles and all the rest of it. Older brothers, older sisters, those that rescue you from when you're in dire straits, whom you love as yourself. Second great commandment. Bless you. Thank you, Dad. Oh, I realise if I call it love affirming communication and I take the initials, it's LAC. Well, that's unfortunate, isn't it? So I'm going to change the last word communication to speech. So it's love affirming speech, LAS, lass. That's nice. It's like lassie, isn't it? Well, lass is a young girl. You know, it's got a good connotation, lass. Okay. Life affirming speech. Thank you, Dad. Love affirming speech then results in you automatically being empathetic. You're seeking out, oh, what's troubling you, sweetheart? How are you feeling? What sort of feeling? You're not happy, are you? What's this negativity? Well, you wouldn't say that because that might just, I'm not being negative, so I'm being realistic. Yes, all right. Yeah. Do you see? You will be empathetic. Why? Because you love them. You will hear only their feelings and needs. Why? Because that's what you're concerned about. You're concerned for their welfare. How beautiful. You see, you have the love of God in you. You don't need to work through some great training scheme on how to love. Loving is teaches itself. And love is quite wonderful in that way.